Hey, it's Rob. I'm back. We're going to do another Proving Grounds practice machine. This time we're doing a machine called Fractal, and it is a Linux box rated as easy. This machine is utterly ridiculous. Um, I honestly have tried this machine multiple times over the course of several months. I was able to get the foothold, but I was not able to exploit the machine. And I've come to find out that there are some issues with this machine that can cause you to have to revert it after you get to a certain point to be able to take advantage of the exploit that they are directing you to. Um, so I'm not ashamed to admit to say this machine kicked my butt, and I'd be amazed if we can get through this walkthrough without me having to at least revert the machine once, because I experienced issues with file permissions, the hard drive filling up, etc. There's shells that aren't stable, so I found ways to work around all of this stuff, and hopefully I can get through this with you, because there really aren't too many walkthroughs for this, if at all, on the internet, and I'm sure somebody has been frustrated by this machine. So without further ado, you can see I am on Offsec's VPN, and you can see I have Fractal spun up, and here's the IP address. So the first thing we did was run an mmap scan, service version detection, T4, all ports aggressive, and only 21, 22, and 80 come back. Now 21's running ProFTP, does not have anonymous access allowed, SSH, and then 80, there's this Apache web server that's running. One thing that's important to note is this robots.txt. This particular directory is going to come into play. So I went to the website, and basically it's this Fractal website, which is a front-end website that does nothing. If you visit the robots.txt, which we will do, you can see there's this appdev.php directory, and then this appdev.php/star. Now, I've done some go busting on this machine, and some normal stuff came back, nothing that was useful. The first time I actually was able to figure something out here was when I visited this appdev.php directory. So if we pop that into the browser, you can see the difference is, and I missed it almost the first time, is this toolbar down here. This looks like a development version of the page, and there's this Symfony, I guess it's development bar that helps developers work on the website. And in doing research on Symfony, there's really not many exploits available. I searched in Searchbloit. There's basically one, and I don't really think that one's applicable. So I spent a lot of time trying to do research on Symfony and how I could potentially take advantage of that, because I'm going to tell you right now, I spent hours enumerating this machine, and there's nothing other than Symfony that you can take advantage of. So I found this blog, Lexfo, and it talks about this secrets fragment, and it's basically an underscore fragment question mark that is appended to the URL that allows command execution. And this article has a lot of good information in it. Some of it is technically above my pay grade, but in here they point to this exploit, which is this Symfony exploits secrets fragment exploit. And essentially the way it works is it takes advantage of this fragment. And the issue is this: there is a secret that is needed for this exploit to work. And if you don't know the secret, it has some, what I would call quote unquote default secrets that it tries. Now, when I ran this exploit, none of these secrets worked. So I wasn't sure what to do next, but I knew that I needed the actual secret of this Symfony instance to be able to take advantage of it. So I found these other two articles, and this one goes into details about the exploit and gives some good examples of how it works. Explains. One thing I would recommend is this Appalizer. I definitely have it running on my machine, and that's really good for seeing what kind of frameworks and what kind of technology has been being used on a website. So he talks about this appdev.php directory, and then he also talks about how you're able to take advantage of this. And really the breakthrough here was this underscore profiler directory. That is not a typical directory that I think you would find in a word list, and none of the word lists that I used when I was doing go busting found it. The only reason I know about this is because of this article. So that's how I figured out how to get the exploit to run, and that's also how I figured out how to find the secret. Now, I think they do it via this PHP info. I was not able to do that. At least I didn't have any success. Where I had success is where he talks about this app config parameters.yml. So you can see he takes the URL and he appends this profiler and then this app config systems.yml. And when he does that, it generates this dump of basically all of the Symfony info that includes the secret. So that's what we're going to do. If we can get this secret, then this exploit that we have will work, and I'll show you. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and see if we can get to that page that dumps the secret. So I'm going to copy the command. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to paste in this URL. And all I did, and I'll explain this, paste. All I did was append the exact, this right here, to the URL, to the app-dev-php directory. And when you do that, it dumps the configuration and shares the secret. So let's do that. Let's cross our fingers and see what happens. And it does. It dumps the secret. So now that we have this secret, now we can focus on this exploit. Okay. So if we look at this exploit, there's really good instructions in here. All of the articles reference method 2, which means you're going to be calling a system function that executes a command, and whatever you put in the parameters is the command that's going to get executed. Okay, so we're going to start with ID just so I can show you how this works, and then we're going to graduate to a reverse shell. Now I just went to payloads all the things and I grabbed the BSD version of the netcat payload, and if you're not familiar with that, it's very simple. I'll show you it before we actually execute it. So what we need to do is download this code. All right, we're going to open the folder, and I'm going to create a folder called Symfony. I'm going to drop this code in there, and I'm going to show you why in a second. If we examine this code, it does require requests, which you know is going to require an Python virtual environment. Here's all of the default secrets. Obviously, none of those works, which is why we went through the whole rigmarole of trying to figure out what the actual secret was. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to open a terminal here, and I'm going to do Python 3 module VNV for virtual environment and .VNV for what is traditionally called. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. Then what we're going to do is we're going to install requests. So .venv bin pip install requests. All right, so now we're going to clear the screen, and hopefully we should be able to run this exploit now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do the example with ID just to show you how this works. What this exploit does is, using the secret, it generates a crafted URL that when you visit the URL will display I believe it's a 403 page, but at the top of the page will be the results of the system command that it calls. So I'll explain this before we do anything. We're basically running the secrets fragment exploit.py in the Python virtual environment. We're pointing it to the URL with this underscore fragment. Okay, that's the important part. You got to have this underscore fragment in here. We're using the recommended method of 2. We're sharing the secret. So this is also the key. You have to have this secret, otherwise this exploit won't work with the default secrets. The function that we're calling is a system command, and the parameters we're passing to that system command is ID. So let me just make sure my IP address is correct. Looks like it is. I'm going to hit enter. And here we go. We have our URL. So I'm going to open this URL. and you can see it actually gives you a 500 internal server error, but you can see at the top it executed the command ID. So we know this machine is exploitable, okay? So I'm just going to kill this, and we're going to go back to our terminal. And now we're going to run it with a netcat reverse shell, or the OpenBSD version. OpenBSD payloads all the things, one-liner, okay? So I'm going to copy this and paste it in here. So we're running the same exact command, right? Method2, secret, function, system call. Here is the OpenBSD payloads, all the things, one-liner. All I did was change it to my IP address and 80. Another thing to note about this machine is you kind of have to do everything on 80. A lot of the other ports are restricted, and if you do it on anything other than 80, it's probably not going to work. I experienced multiple problems with trying to transfer files back and forth and netcat listeners, and the only time I had success was when I stuck with port 80. Okay. My other advice is, once you run this exploit, don't kill this terminal session, because the shell that you get is very unstable, and to be able to reconnect, all you have to do is open the link again after you restart your listener, and it'll save you a bunch of time. So we're going to hit enter. It's going to go through the permutations, and now we have this URL to do a reverse shell. So the first thing that we need to do is a netcat listener on 80. We're going to go back to our exploit, and we're going to open this link. So you can see this is hung now, which is a good sign. So we go back to our netcat listener, and we have a shell. Now this shell is very unstable. I'm going to try and use the old Python upgrade to see if we can upgrade it a little bit so that we can actually see what's going on here. Just give me a second, and I'll get this copied over. This should be in your notes as well. This is the standard Python import bin bash to try and get a bit of a better shell. So we're going to hit enter, and we do have a better shell. Now we're data, and there's not a lot we can do here, but we can go to home, and we can do an ls. And there's a user called Benoit. Now this is going to be important. You're going to want to note that down Benoit's name, because what we're going to do later is going to involve him. So we're going to do an ls again, cd into Benoit, ls, and we're going to cat local.txt. And this is where I was stuck, I would say, for another month or two, and gave up on the machine and decided to come back to it. What I'm going to tell you right now is this machine has some problems. If I do disk-free, human readable, right now you can see the disk drive is okay. I've run into instances where the disk drive for some reason was at 100% usage, and you couldn't transfer any files back and forth. That was very frustrating. The way you fix that is you revert the machine, okay? And if you leave that other window open with the exploit, once you revert, you'll be able to just reconnect to the shell, and you'll be good to go. Now, the way you're being directed is towards this ProFTPD, okay? So I didn't really know where the configuration file for that was, but if you come over here and you just search for ProFTPD MySQL configuration file, because if you do enumeration on this machine, you'll see there's a MySQL database running, and it appears to be the back end for the ProFTPD program. It's located in etc ProFTPD, and then there's the SQL configuration. Here's the next problem you could encounter, okay? Hopefully we don't encounter it now, but if we do, I'll tell you how to fix it. We're going to go to cd etc ProFTPD, and we're going to do an ls ail. And right off the bat, I can tell you there's a problem. So this file right here, I don't know why this is, and I've given up trying to deal with Offsec's technical support. I've run into problems with this machine and another machine called My Forum, and you end up in tech support hell. It's very frustrating when you pay almost $2,000 to become SCP certified, and some of these machines are not working. So what I'm going to do, you can clearly see right here, this file that you need to be able to read is root, and it's read write for root only. Okay, so if we try to cat that file, it is not going to work. So what I'm going to do is really quickly, I'm going to revert the machine and see what happens. And then I will save this screen here so that you can see when I revert the machine what the difference is. Just keep in mind right here, this is the file we need, and right now we cannot read it. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So basically, the way that you get around this issue is you have to revert the machine. You can clearly see 100% SQL.conf is read only here and it's read write and it's only for root. Once I reverted the machine, look at this. Now it's readable by everybody. So Offsec can tell you all they want, there's no issues with any of their machines. This is probably why I spent months on this machine. Okay, it wasn't until I figured this out that I was able to exploit this machine. So if this happens to you, just revert the machine and re-exploit it. That's why I told you to leave that window open so that you can just open that link and do your netcat listener. Okay, this is the file that you need to get into. So I will tell you this right now, cat SQL.conf, and this is why it's important. They give you the credentials to get into the MySQL database here. If you can't get into this file, you can't get into the MySQL database. Okay, so one of the things that I've also faced an issue with, and I'm going to do it preemptively here because the shell will crash occasionally. I'm going to go to my terminal and I'm going to do an MSF Venom payload and create a malicious executable that will just do another reverse shell. And I found that if you run this in the shell that you have, the next shell you get is a bit more stable. Okay, so we now have this shell executable. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to we need to Python 3 module HTTP server on 80. And then what you need to do is go back to your foothold, and hopefully we haven't lost our shell. We're going to go to the temp directory, and then we're going to do a wget HTTP 192.168.45.159 shell. Okay, so if we do an ls, shell is there. We're going to chmod plus x shell. Then we're going to come back to our HTTP server. We're going to kill that, Control-C, and we're going to do another netcat listener on 80. Then we're going to come back to our shell, and we're going to execute the shell command. Okay, so now we have our shell. I'm going to do the old Python again here, copy, paste. Now hopefully we have a stable shell and the permissions on that file are correct, right? So if we go back to cd etc ProFTPD and we cat SQL.conf, we have the credentials to get into this MySQL database. Now the other thing I'm going to tell you is this password, you cannot copy and paste it when you are going to log into the MySQL database. I've found that the machine hangs when you do that as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and log into this database now and see if we can get in and do what we need to do to exploit this machine. So the way you do that is MySQL, and the user is going to be ProFTPD, okay? And then we're going to ask it to prompt us for a password. So we're going to hit enter, and now it asks for the password. Now, pay attention to this way this password's spelled. It's transposed purposefully, and it really kind of threw me off. It affects my reverse dyslexia. I kept typing the password wrong, but you need to type it. Don't copy and paste it, okay? So it's PROT, and then it's FPD underscore with underscore MySQL underscore password. Okay, so if we hit enter, we're in the database. Now, you all should know how to just do some basic enumeration on a MySQL database, and I will show you how to do that. Okay, So the first thing that we need to do is find out what we're working with. So we're going to type show databases. Don't forget the semicolon at the end, okay? So there's 3 databases in this MySQL database. One of them is information schema, performance schema, and then ProFTPD. First 2 are default, I believe. So we want to use ProFTPD. Okay, so now we're using that database. What we can do is show tables. Don't forget semicolon. And there's 2 tables in there, FTP group and FTP user. We're interested in FTP user, so we're going to do select star from FTP user. Okay, and I forgot the semicolon. Now this was the next issue that I encountered. I saw this password and I was like, well, this looks like base 64. What is this? So I wasn't exactly sure how to exploit this. What I figured was we could insert a database, a user into the database, because you can't log in with this one. There's this sbin no shell. Excuse me, I'm still sick. And my thought was we could maybe use Benoit, okay, and then potentially FTP into the site as Benoit in his home directory, and maybe upload some SSH keys to be able to log in with the shell and see if Benoit has better access than www data, okay, because I ran linps on this and everything. The only thing you're going to get out of linps is the PHP credentials, which at this point in the game are useless. They're really not going to get you anything. So the way I did this was I inserted a new user into the database named Benoit, which matches the Benoit in the home directory where the flag was stored. So it's pretty simple, actually. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it and I'll explain it. Basically what we're doing is we're inserting into the FTP user table, and then these are the columns that we're inserting data into, and then this values indicates the values that we are inserting into those columns. So for the user ID, you don't have to worry about ID. That is an auto number, so as we insert a value, that will increment automatically. And I didn't really worry about this access and modified stuff. And you can see I just lost the shell again. God. Very frustrating. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to try and get re-exploit this, and I'm going to try and do it a little quicker this time. But you can see what we're trying to do here, okay? So let's do another netcat on NLVP 80. We'll go back to Symfony, and we'll open the link. All right, so we have a shell. We're just going to not mess around this time. We're just going to do MySQL user ProFTPD password, and then we're going to enter the password, which is prot f. What was the password? FPD underscore with MySQL underscore password. Hey, it's Rob. We're going to speed this part up because I typed the password wrong about 3 or 4 times and then the machine hung again. So here we go. Okay, MySQL user ProFTPD password, and I'm typing the password that you see right there. ProFTPD. I might have been typing that wrong, but maybe not. FPD underscore with MySQL underscore password. Okay, so I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut to the chase and say use ProFTPD. Okay, and then we're just going to add this user real quick, copy, paste, and I will explain how I created this password afterwards. I just want to make sure I get this working. So I'm going to hit enter, And now if we do select star from FTP user, semicolon, you can see we have this Benoit user in here now. Okay, so now I don't care if I lose the shell. I'll show you how I figured out how to create this password. So if I did some research on that, and if you go, I will include a link to this in the description below, how to set up a ProFTPD user, ProFTPD with a MySQL backend on Ubuntu. If you're too long didn't read, if you scroll down, he tells you exactly how to create the password. And it's very important that you pay attention to these backticks. So basically what this password is it's an MD5 password that's encoded with base64 and has this MD5 appended to the beginning of it. And this backtick actually is, the backticks actually are really pretty important, because what it does is it executes the command and appends it to that MD5. Okay, and I can actually show you this, how I generated the password. So let me just find that command just to make sure. And if we paste the clipboard, that's the password that I used. So if we go back and look, that is the exact password in here, and it's just password. Okay, this is the password that you create. Okay, so now that we've inserted this user Benoit into the FTP database, we should be able to log into FTP using it. Now, most of your troubles are over at this point. You probably won't have to revert the machine anymore or anything like that. You know, I apologize, this video is probably going to run long, but like I said, you're seeing the issues, the permissions issue, dropping of the shell issue. You have to be in an upgraded shell to use the MySQL login using that FTP, ProFTP password, and you also have to not copy it. You have to type it, which is kind of nerve-wracking because I constantly want to spell ProFTPD right, not wrong the way they have it in the password. So what we should be able to do here, now that we have this user, is we're going to FTP, and IP address is changed, and it is 232. So 232.233. Just make sure. Yep. Okay. We're going to FTP, and we're going to try and get in as Benoit, the user we just created. So we're going to hit enter, and then we're going to enter the password, which is just password. And we're in. So if I do a pwd, we're at the root of the FTP server. But if we do an ls, we can tell we are in Benoit's home directory because there is the local.txt. Okay. So my thought was, let's make dir.ssh. Okay. And if we do an ls, we're good. So we should be able to change directories into .ssh now and do a pwd. And we are in the .ssh folder. So now what we need to do is generate a key set. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Kali folder, and I'm going to turn on hidden files, and I'm going to go into this SSH folder, and there are no keys in here now. Okay. So what we can do is go back here, and it's very simple to generate a key pair. This is the command, not a big deal. Okay, SSH keygen, and we're doing an RSA key. So we're going to hit enter. Where do we want to put it? We're just going to put it in that folder that I just showed you. We're not going to enter a passphrase. We're not going to enter a passphrase. So now I can kill this terminal, and I'm going to go back to this folder, and I'm going to open a terminal here. And if we do an ls-ail, we can see I have an IDRSA private key, a public key, and we're going to need one more thing. We're going to have to create one more thing. So if I come back here and I open up this public key, what we're going to want to do is copy this. Okay. Then we're going to want to go back to our terminal, and we're going to want to nano authorized keys. Okay. So there's two files you need to upload to the SSH folder via FTP. the public key and the authorized keys. And if you do that, we should be able to log in with Benoit using the IDRSA identity file. So I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to paste the clipboard, and then I'm going to hit Control-O, Control-X. And we're just going to cat authorized keys just to see what it looks like, and that is perfect. That has the public key in there. So now we can kill this, and we can go back to our FTP server, and we can put authorized underscore keys Oh, I know why. We need to move those. Let's move these to my home directory because it's trying to upload them from my home directory. So I'm just going to move all of these folders, all these files to my home directory. Then we're going to go back to our FTP instance and we're going to put authorized underscore keys. Okay, now we're going to put ID underscore rsa.pub. Those are the two files you need to upload. Not connected. Okay, probably got booted off again. God, this machine is just terrible. All right, so Benoit, and then password is password. Okay, cd.ssh, put ID underscore rsa.pub. Okay, we do an ls. We now have authorized keys and ID RSA pub up there. So now we can get the heck out of FTP. Now we don't care, okay? What we need to do is go to our home folder again, and let's get rid of the hidden files and folders just to clean this up. We have to open a terminal here, and we're going to do ls AIL on ID RSA, and right now it's read write, so we have to chmod 400 ID RSA. Okay, do an ls AIL ls AIL on ID RSA, and you can see it's read only. So now we're going to clear the screen, and we're going to try to SSH in as Benoit, and I need to change this to 232. And we're using the ID RSA key. Okay. So if we come back and we hit enter, we're going to say yes, and we're in. So now we're going to upgrade our shell, copy, paste clipboard, and we have a pretty decent shell now. So we're going to do our normal Linux enumeration. We're going to type history, and it's just my history. We're going to do sudo tac-l, and he can run everything with no password. So this is easy. We just type sudo switch user, and we're root. So now we can cd root, and we can do an ls, and we can cat local.txt. Oh no, we're still in Benoit, so we need to cd root ls and cat proof.txt. And there's the flag. This machine is just unfreaking believable. Okay, I spent months on this machine trying to finish up all the easy machines. I've already started moving into the intermediate machines, but there is definitely issues with this machine. I guess in a sense it's very similar to hacking in real life. There's always going to be issues that you're running into, but I'm not sure why the hard drive was full at one point. I'm not sure why the permissions changed on that SQL.conf file. The constant disconnects, I mean, that's just something you would have to deal with in real life as well. Some of these shells are just not that stable. But ultimately what we did to exploit this machine was we found out that there was Symfony running on this website. We found a developer directory that had the Symfony toolbar, did some research, found an exploit using _fragment. Was not able to use the exploit because the default secrets that came with the exploit did not work for us. Did some more research, found out about this _profiler directory and the ability to basically disclose a YML file that had all the configuration information in it for Symfony. Was able to get the secret that way, used method 2 of the exploit to run a reverse shell, got the reverse shell, figured out that we needed to exploit ProFTPD. I ran linps, did all kinds of enumeration, but as dub data, you can't really do too much. So we found the SQL.conf, had to revert the machine because the permissions on it were messed up. Got reconnected, was able to get the credentials to log into the MySQL database. We figured out that we had to enter another user into the database using Benoit. Seemed to be the best course of action because Benoit is a user on the system, and we were hoping that maybe we can get some additional access as Benoit. We added Benoit. We logged in via FTP. We created a SSH key pair. We uploaded the public key and the authorized keys to Benoit's home directory in the SSH folder. We used the identity file to SSH in as Benoit. We did our normal enumeration, and on step 2 figured out that Benoit could run all commands sudo no password. So we switched user to root and we got the flag. So I am so glad this machine is over with. Even making this video was painful for me. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope this was helpful because, like I said, there aren't many walkthroughs of this machine. I'm sorry the video is so long. All the links will be in the description below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, please just drop a comment below and I'll be happy to chat with you. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.